Hello, precious people. I'm Jacqueline Parks. Welcome to my studio, Stampin' Turtles. And today we are going to be painting a forest scene with a lake. So there's some reflections. That's going to be a little challenging, but I think you'll be able to do it. It's also very patient oriented. You're going to have to allow some layers to dry if you don't have a heat tool. But we can go ahead and get started. And I have some things here I want to show you that are really cool. My friend Linda Ball gave me. So let me show you that. And yes, we can hear my voice. So nice, so nice. Look at this thing. It looks pretty intense and intricate, but it was really easy to put together. So basically it's just like this little container of water that goes in here, and it goes down a little channel and has like a little bit of water for my brush to be cleaned. So that, look how clean that water is. And all the dirty water goes down here. So we're gonna try it out today. I'm very curious how this is gonna work. But if you want to see, this is my desk. And so from above you can tell, let me see if we can zoom in a little bit better. Let me see. So see, this is where all the water is coming from here. It's some kind of vacuum thingy. So basically I take my brush and I just put it in there, and I can run it around in a circle. And as this water gets too dirty, I just push this button and it goes down and it refills automatically. It's so cool. And it even has these. These are removable, but you can put paints in there. And when you're done and you want your brushes to dry, you can put them in that little holder right there. So it's so cool. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, right there. So basically you could just use this for all of your needs. All of your needs. I'm excited to try it out. Also, I am drinking my tea today. I have not put my honey in it yet. Where's my honey? Here it is. So as you know, I like this Coastal Comb Bee Company raw honey, y'all. If you have allergies, this is what you need to get. And we're gonna put some, whoops. Also, Linda Ball gave me this card. Isn't that so sweet? It says, "So lucky to call you my friend." I think I'm the lucky one. You are a major, wonderful, awesome, generous person. Always supportive of me. I love ya. All right. Gonna fill this up with some honey. I don't like unsweet stuff. I like sweet. I have sweet. And here's the thing. Got a little spoon. Do a little stir. But yeah, if you are watching this on the rewind, whatever, not live, you can always fast forward through all of this mundane stuff if this is not your cup of tea. Cup of tea. Hey Jerry, thank you for joining. Hopefully you will be able to paint along. I always love to see your paintings afterwards. But this tea, I'm not sick, but it sounded good. Elderberry with vitamin C. It smells very berry. Very yummy smelling. Bigelow green tea. So definitely going to be enjoying this cup of tea. I've got my paints and my brushes. If you guys don't have your paints or brushes yet, go grab them. You can always push pause if you're watching this later and go get all your stuff. Jerry says, "I'm happy to have time to join today." Me too. I'm so happy. I've already had a busy day, y'all. I've been already to my studio. A lady wanted to buy some persimmon soap from me. And if you don't know what a persimmon soap is, do I even have, I don't know if I even have it. Yeah, something. tells me I don't. But I thought I did. But now I don't. Oh, wait, here we go. So this is my little label that I designed in Canva for my soap, for my persimmon deodorant soap. And it has a list of the ingredients in there, and it's made with real persimmon. And apparently these are kind of hard to find soaps. So if you are looking for that, hit me up. I got some. I still have probably 6 bars left, and I plan to make more as I get low on these ones, which I guess I'm getting low on them, huh? But I'm also going to be selling. Only have 3 bars of this soap. This is a Castile soap. It's just olive oil and coconut oil, and it's just no fragrance. So it's just pure soap. You know, you make soap with lye, but it's always fun to do that. Let me show you today's painting. So yesterday we painted this at my in-person class, and it was really good. And I ended up only having people draw the mountain range and the shoreline and the rocks. That's all you draw with your pencil line. And remember, we don't press hard on our pencils with our pencil, because if you press hard with your pencil, it's going to end up leaving it too, it's going to leave it too dark, and you won't be able to get rid of that pencil line. So I'm going to show you real quick. I may have to press hard just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do landscape today because I've done 2 portrait style. So I want to do a landscape. So this mountain range is going to come up and down and like that. And then one smaller little mountain range right here. So we do want this line to come across and in front of that one. And then we're going to skip about 1 inch down from where we think the bottom of our mountains are. And we're going to just draw like a little lake bank, okay? And we're just going to come across like this. That's why we draw very lightly, so we can erase if we're messing up. Also, there's going to be some rocks, you know, right here. Make sure the rocks are flat because this is water. And you can even do a nice size boulder right here. And another one going kind of off the page. And maybe another one right behind them. And maybe another one coming down. So this is all really experimental with whatever you want. I'm not going by a reference photo except for my own, which I'm sure I was inspired by Pinterest. That's where I get all my great ideas. So see the rocks, I kind of did it a little differently in this one, and I may even have the actual one I painted yesterday. Let's see. So this is the small one that I did to show people what to do the day, before the class. And then this one, oh, it's very big. Let me see if we can go into a different, there we go. So this was a 9x12. So if you don't want to go this big, you can cut yours down to an 8x10 or 5x7, or any size you want in between. But this one I did during class, and I actually really, really like this section down here, which is the rocks with some grasses and flowers blooming, which I thought looked really pretty in the foreground, as opposed to like, just having, it's almost like this is more the focal point now than the trees and the mountains. But everyone did so amazing. Do you guys want to see how well everyone did during class? I have a little picture here. So everyone did so amazing. I am impressed by everyone's. And everyone was able to follow instructions. So I have a new setup where I have a big screen TV now that projects what I'm painting, so everyone can see all at once what I am doing. So I love that, and I'm excited to continue using that for my classes. So, all right, I'm moving a little bit around just because sometimes things are very cramped in here, right? So we are going to start off by wetting our sky. So I just use this nice big flat brush. I get it good and wet, and I'm painting just the sky, so not the mountains. So this is great with a flat brush. You can just go up and down and around. And yeah, I have not taped my painting down. If you guys feel the necessity to tape yours down so it doesn't warp, please do so. Mine is fine. I am putting lots of water on this today. I feel like everything's drying so fast because it's so hot that we have our AC on max, right? Trying to stay cool in our homes. All right, so I have just wet this. Janice, what are we painting? Can you show me one more time? Of course, of course. Let me see where it went. Did I hide it? I don't know. Here it is. So this is our inspiration piece, and all I did was draw the two mountains in the background, like those lavender purplish mountains. That's all I drew. And the shoreline, just so we know not to paint too far down. And then the rocks. I did draw the rocks, and I'm doing portrait, or not portrait, I'm doing landscape orientation now because I've already done portrait a couple times. So, but this is, hopefully you were able to take a screenshot. Let me know. But this is, you know, just like the hills, the mountains, and then I did do the bank or the water's edge and a couple rocks right here and a couple rocks right here. So hopefully this will all work out perfectly. I'm going to move my little light that I normally put on there. Maybe that illuminates it a little bit better. So really the only thing that's important to have is your mountains, your shoreline, and your rocks, because we're going to be painting those trees without drawing them. So that may be scary for some, but I think it's going to help press y'all and push y'all to have a more challenging experience with this. So hopefully everything is going well. I have not kept track with my chat over here. Let me make sure if I see something new. So yeah, we're going to get started by doing some blue. So some people like to spray some water on their watercolors just to get them hydrated. I just dip mine in the water well. But we're going to use that cobalt blue, which is this one. It's kind of like a sky blue. And it's not turquoise colored at all, or it's just a nice, pretty sky blue is what I call it. And what we're going to do is just fill in all of this. If it's not spreading out at all, you need more water, because we want lots of water to create these pretty skies. And I'm filling everything in. I'm going to show you how we make the clouds. And I might need a little more water. So I am putting a fair amount of this paint. Don't be shy with your paint. Don't be, I guess, stingy with your paint. So now I have this paper towel, and it's a dirty one, but it's okay. It's been sitting here. It will still absorb all the paint. And you can do this in a couple different ways. You can, because it's usually very hazy down towards the bottom, and then there might be a cloud up here, and you can make them like cumulus clouds. You can make whatever kind of shape you want. But I am turning mine again so I can absorb some more. But see how it just makes these nice little white fluffy clouds? And if you're not taped to your paper or to your table like sometimes I am, you can tilt it and see how it's flowing. This is great because you can start to imagine where everything is. This paper is probably not that great. I don't know what brand it is. It might be Canson. It might be something else. But the better your paper, the more you can mess with it and scrub and saturate with water and all kinds of abuse to your paper if it's a high quality. So, I am going to be letting this sky area dry because we don't want to paint our mountains while this is still wet. If you do that, then you're going to have purple going up into your sky, which may look cool, right? So instead of doing that, we're going to focus, since we already have our blue kind of wet, we might do the water at this time. And what I like to do is just very quickly, we're not spending hours doing this. It's a very quick way to paint. And what I'm doing is just very lightly, like more pale than the sky, is just to add this. Going around my rocks because we don't want to paint them blue, but we do want to make some kind of blues down here. So they're going to match up here a little bit. Why am I turning this the wrong way? So yeah, I think it's, let me see. Sometimes, oh, my water just did something weird. I don't know if I can make this smaller. Smaller? I don't know, it's very hard to see, but let's see if that's a little better. Okay, so I just did a little bit down here and we are waiting for this to dry. I'm seeing it's drying. So while it's drying, let's mix. Let's mix a pretty color. So purple is, you know, like a lavender purple if you want. I mix a little bit of my, either both of my purples together, which I don't know if you're supposed to, but I like that. And then I also add a little bit of that blue we've been using for the sky. Oops. I have some kind of weird magenta color already on my palette. But I'm liking this color. This color is very nice. It's like a, I don't know, like a periwinkle maybe. Now, there's a couple ways you can do your mountains. You can just go ahead and go for it and start painting, or you can wet them first and then paint. I'm just going to go for it, so you should be able to see what I do. And see how I'm just following? I dip in the water and spread. Do not go past the horizon right here. You don't want purple right next to your shoreline. But you do want to make sure your mountains are up there. And I'm going to also do these ones. Now you might be thinking, what about your trees? Are your trees going to be too translucent to go over this? And I'm going to tell you, if you're going really dark on your mountains, that could end up being a problem. So don't make these super dark. But we're just doing like that. See how I'm not even going very far past that area? And I'm letting there be some granulation. Look how pretty that is. It's already kind of settling into the grooves and the divots in the paper. So it's already doing some cool stuff. All right, and I'm leaving it very light. I want it to be kind of a hazy, hazy background. And I did see a little bleeding into my sky, which not a big deal. All right, so we're gonna rinse my brush, and while we're waiting for our mountains to dry, we're gonna mix up our green. So if you can see over here in my palette, I'm gonna mix it green. I need to refill my sap green, but um, that is sometimes a problem. I already have green on my palette, but I use some Viridian green, a little bit of red, a little bit of Viridian green and sap green. I like to mix both, but I don't know if I have any more sap green. Let me see what we got. Because if I don't have more, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It might end up being a totally different color. I'm trying to keep it. Yep, here we go. Buy the large sizes, y'all. This is Winsor Newton Professional Watercolor Paint. And this is a 14 milliliter bottle. You can get them in smaller ones, but this one just made sense because I use it all the time. I can show you the difference in sizes. So normally at the store they come in these 5 milliliter. So a 14 milliliter is definitely larger and gives you a lot more paint. And I do like professional grade watercolors because I do commissions. And I'm gonna just go ahead and fill this whole thing up. If you've never done this before, just squeeze out some paint in there. And see, now you can tell that I've got a lot of paint in there, but when it's wet, you almost try and use it like acrylic paint. Don't do that. Try and be more conservative and not use so much. So just dip it a little bit and see how much a little goes a long way, especially if you put water in here with this. Dipping in my water. And some more Viridian and red. Alizarin Crimson is a good red to mix in with this. Look how nice and dark that made that. But I do like mixing my two greens. I don't know, I mix my two purples. I mix a lot of colors together. I think it just looks more interesting. And when you do opposites on the color wheel together, that does mute them and make them more gray or brown, like a neutral tone. And for me, I think it just looks great. So I am going to start planning. I might have to dry this, y'all. It's not drying like I thought it would. Okay, but we don't want it to be too dry. We can leave it stay damp a little bit. So now, because this is nice and watery and a dark green, what we're going to paint next is like this area, these kind of trees, but these trees have multiple layers. So basically we're making more mountain ranges, but they're going to be spiky. So I'm going to start kind of coming down and following low and then possibly going back up. So I'm going to add more paint onto my brush and go lower with that. And I'm almost out of paint already. So this is like when they say you should make enough for your painting. When you go larger, that's what you have to remember is mix up some more in here. But I kind of like how this is looking. I could even make it more, because this is a flat brush. You can do something like it makes these little, and I don't want you to be like painting every tree. These are just random marks. I do want to do something I'm thinking about and kind of researching is doing a abstract kind of painting for therapy, kind of like if you're just stressed out and you just don't want to think about what you're painting, then you can go ahead and make some abstract watercolors. I think that would be fun to do. I don't know if I'll do that next week, maybe, because next Sunday I don't have a class, but the following Sunday I do have a class. So that might be good for me to do next week on our live, is to just talk a little bit about how art is therapeutic and helps you relax and enjoy, especially if you're not trying to make a scene like this. You're not trying to make it look like anything, you're just having fun with the paints. So I like how this is very pale. I'm not going to add my second layer yet because that won't help. If you try and make your second layer, it won't do anything. So now I am rinsing my brush and drying it. And what should we paint next? Probably our rocks, because that's something that is not next to anything wet. We don't want things touching. So I'm going to go in a smaller size brush that's also around. So I'm going to get that wet. And I may go ahead and drain that and fill it with some clean water, which I'm not used to using clean water, but that's okay. I do have this weird color in here that I've never used up. So it is original. It's not a professional grade paint, but it's kind of like, it reminds me of gouache, how opaque it is. It's not translucent like watercolor, and it looks gray there, but when I paint with it, you'll see it's gonna look weird. Let me see if I can zoom y'all in so you can see what I'm doing. I don't know. Where's my zoom in? There it is. I guess I'm already zoomed in. So maybe I'll move the zoom in just a little bit. So we're gonna look at these rocks, right? So I am going to paint the whole rock. See this color? It's almost, I call it taupe. I don't know what other people call it, but I would call it taupe. That. So see how I'm just going around where I already did the pencil lines? And I want to show you something really cool. So this is when you have to make a decision where your sunlight's coming from. So I'm going to rinse my brush, dry it. I'm going to lift, dry, lift, dry, lift, dry. So I think I like this kind of highlight on the rightish side and top. And see how I'm just doing that, rinse. If you start getting too much pigment and you're not lifting anything, nothing's happening, just go ahead and rinse your brush again. And I've noticed that some of this has kind of gone into my water. I'm gonna just wiggle my brush to soften that so it doesn't look like what, I don't know, it doesn't look like it's going over there now. So this is basically our first layer on our rock. I kind of like that color, maybe. If I want to change the color, watch what happens. I can dip this in my Payne's Gray and just go over it. Mix your colors that if you want. If you don't like the color that you put on there, just put a little bit of a different color right on top and see what happens, right? You can mix right on your paper. And sometimes you got to add water because look at that. That's kind of darker than I wanted it. I'm just going to add some water and lift. There is a technique to make rocks with a credit card scraper tool, which I do not know how to perfect because you have to time it just right. And if you don't time it just right, it doesn't work. And see, that's not really doing anything. I feel like it has to be darker when you do it. But yeah, there you go. That's kind of, I don't know if that's really working either. This is when you could play around with that, but I kind of want to keep this a little more simple of a tutorial online so we're not overwhelmed by it all. So let me see if we can zoom back out just so you can see how that looks with the background. Doesn't that look nice? So it's already looking really pretty and watercolory. I love that. But I'm going to go ahead and do these two that I didn't do yet. I'm going to fill them in, add some water. And these ones, Might be more gray blue. And we're not doing the reflections yet. I kind of want to save that for the end because we're going to be painting some big trees and I don't want to waste time painting reflections and then like we end up not putting the trees where our reflections are. So it's just easier to do it last. So I'm just going to lift, lift, lift. See how that's looking? And we could even, if I don't like how that color looks, I can go in and just dab some of that taupey color that I was using. But you don't want to overdo this. You can, we're always, you know, asking how do we not overwork our paintings. Well, the way to stop doing that is to stop painting on it and let it dry and see what happens. So sometimes we're looking at it and it hasn't finished morphing into what it's going to look like when it dries. So it's best to just let it kind of dry a little and then you can go assess what you need to do. So now I'm going to go back to this green tree line and we want to mix up some more green. I'm going to use my sap green right here and just dab and put it in my palette. So I'm just dabbing a little bit. I don't want to get a big scoop. I'm going to mix a little bit of my viridian green and my red, a little bit of that red. And remember, if you go too far with the red, you'll have to add more green, but that might work out. I put a little bit of Payne's Gray in this one because I want it to be a little darker this go around, but not too dark yet. Okay, so I do have my paints mixed a little bit here. Not too watery this time. We're going to go with a more thicker paint than we were doing. And I am going to use this smaller brush because that's going to give me some nice lines. And you can go over the tops of what you've already done. You can space them out a little bit. Or you can just follow what you had already there. And I'm liking how that's starting to look. Come over here and do a little bit over here. I like doing some in the middle. And I'm almost out of this color I just mixed. So I'm just going to spread this out a little bit. And the bottom I want to soften. So the edge is going to be softened with just some water. Just a little bit of water. And see how I'm wiggling my brush up towards it and grabbing some of the paint, pulling it down. So anyways, this could be like the foggy valley right in there. So maybe we don't want to make any more. We'll just let it stay kind of soft in there. So I am a very loose watercolor artist. I'm not very detail oriented with my paintings, but I do want you to realize that towards the end, we're going to be putting in details that will bring it all together. That's the thing, is like when you're a watercolor artist, you can start real loose, real soft and undefined, and then as you bring in the foreground items, you add that detail then, and that brings the whole thing together. I'm drinking some more of my tea. All right, so now I'm going to mix my big tree color because that's what's going to be next, I think. So I'm going to just get some water. Might use that viridian green again, a little bit of sap, a little bit. And this one you want even thicker. So the paint consistency on this one is going to be a lot thicker and it's going to be a lot darker. And you kind of want to mix enough. If you're doing a 9x12 like I am, you're going to have to keep mixing paint if you're not doing it like enough. You'll have to try and match. And so I'm just getting a lot of paint on here. See how thick that is? Like when I push it around, it still flows back, but not so much, right? It's like when you have a lot of water. I'm adding a lot of Payne's Gray this time around instead of just a little dollop or a little touch of it. This is going to be darker. We want it to be darker. I do like to still maintain a greenish color, but this is like a hunter green or Everest or like pine green. I don't know what color you would call that. Let me see if the light helps. So we're just kind of going dark, and I'll show you again. We're going to be focusing on these guys, these ones. But if you're doing a landscape style one like I am, we can put like 3 trees over here and 2 over here. That might be kind of cool. So this is where you get brave and you have to just draw a straight line with your brush. Okay, the tip of your brush, you don't want to press really hard. You just want to do, so I'm going to start a little bit off right here and just come straight down. And see how that's still kind of wet and it's bleeding out. That might be okay. We'll see what happens. When I paint my trees, I just kind of go back and forth a little bit and I leave gaps. Because no pine trees are perfectly symmetrical in the wild. There's brush fires, there's lightning strikes, there's all kinds of things. I see someone just sent me a message. Hopefully everything's cool. Okay. Yes. Always tell me if there's something wrong. Like if anything happens, like I'm doing the video and you guys do not see an image anymore. Tell me, please tell me. So see how this is kind of bleeding a little bit? I'm going to let it do that because I'll come back with some second layers when it dries. So now I have one right there and I'm going to do another one just a little bit off, a little bit shorter. And we're going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to go back and forth with our brush and we're making these little back and forth markings. It can blend in with that one. And we always go a little bit wider at the base. And you can leave a little bit of green showing through if you want to. It doesn't have to be like that, but we will come back because this is very blurry. We will come back to that. But I like how the sky above the line is, above the tree line. So this one we're going to do 3 trees, right? So maybe I'll do the center one. And again, this is a little more dry. We're just going to do that back and forth. And this is, you know, you can always practice and do this when you're just watching TV. Get like a piece of watercolor paper and you can go back and forth and practice making trees. And I am making it wider towards the bottom. I'm picking up a little more paint. I'm going to do a second one kind of over and down. This is where you can always customize your painting and do what you feel like doing. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. It is fun to do whatever you want and I need a little more water. Like it's kind of getting that dry brush technique going, and that's not what we're trying to do. All right, so then I got 1, 2, 1, 2, but now let's put that third one in there. And I'm almost out of paint. Almost made enough, I think. So now we're just going to do a little bit over on this side. Just wiggling the brush back and forth. Not trying to make these trees symmetrical at all. A little bit wider towards the bottom, okay? And this one's very translucent because I was running out of paint, but that's okay. We'll go back and do a second layer on this as it's starting to dry a little bit over here. It will look better. And also We may even put some little short ones right here. But let me get my brush just a little bit wet and pick up some more of this green, pick up some of that sap green, pick up some of that Payne's gray, pick up some of that red. And so I'm pretty good at mixing at this point because I've done it a couple times. You guys will get better as you practice. Let me see how that's looking. It's still kind of bleeding out a little bit. But you can go in and do some darker areas if you feel like it. I don't know why it's not drying that good. I might hit it with my heat tool. And that's sometimes all it takes is a little bit of that. So yeah, I may do some little baby trees right here. Little baby trees. And I'm just using, if you need to use a smaller brush, go ahead and use a smaller brush. I'm going to continue making these trees just a little bit bigger at the base. But it looks kind of like this one now is behind that one, so it's kind of cool. I'm leaving some of the light showing. I think that's cool. Sometimes you start doing this and you'll be like, ooh, I really didn't plan that, but it's turning out nice. I'm going to do a little bit of some areas that are a little darker than others. This is when you could add a little bit of brown in there. So if you wanted to dip your brush and get a little bit of burnt sienna and see what happens if I add a little bit of burnt sienna. It's still going to kind of bleed into some of that tree trunk, like making a tree trunk kind of, but it's still wet, so it's like, it looks good. I think we can do a little brown over here just in a couple spots. Not too fussy. Don't be too fussy. Just let it be organic. Now I'm going to mix up a little bit more of my green. It's weird, this water dispenser has bloops, little air bubbles that go off. All right, so now I'm going to do a little darker over here because it was kind of light because I was running out of paint. So I'm going to just go over it again here and there and let it just kind of become whatever. This tree might be the one in the front. This one might be behind that one. Maybe we'll do a couple little trees right here. Again, the little baby trees are great. They can do a lot of filling in. We could do something right here maybe. And then again over here, this one needs a little bit more definition just to make it look like it's blending in with these guys. And that's looking good. You can almost go with another little tree right here and just the top maybe. So that looks good. This guy is all by his little self, but what if I just water this down and we make a couple little background trees maybe behind that one? I don't know. Sometimes I think, should I have done that? Should I have done this? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think it looks okay. Oh, Linda, I was telling everybody about the wonderful gift you gave me. So I've already showed everybody how to use it. I don't know if I can pick it up and show you that I'm using it, but it's cool. And see how dirty this water is right there? But look what happens. You just press that button and it refills. It's so cool. Now I have fresh water for every brush stroke. Not that that's how I roll, but that's great. I love how that's working. So like if you wanted to go from green, murky water and you want to paint something yellow, you don't have to go dump out your water dish. So now I'm just taking clean water and just going on the bottom here because I like softening that just a little. Just a little. It may cause a bloom. We'll see what happens. It may end up doing a bloom for me. We'll see. Sometimes I like that. It looks almost like a mist in the forest, but we'll see what this one's going to do. We don't know yet. We are just playing it by ear. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. And now that I've got all my trees in where I want my trees, we are going to start thinking about our water reflections of those trees, okay? So what I told everyone in class yesterday was to add our blue into our green. If you don't need your green anymore, you may be still catching up, but I'm going to take a little bit of my blue and I'm going to mix it into this green. Maybe not all of it. Maybe I'll just put a little bit in the corner. And I'm going to mix it until it's blue. Not as blue as the sky, but a little bit blue. So this is where we're gonna use a different brush. So sometimes I use my little kickstand for my brush because I don't want to rinse off that pretty blue, right? So we're gonna get just some water and we are going to wet all along that edge. We're just getting it wet again. And you can go as far down to the bottom of the page, but don't get your rocks all wet. We don't want them wet. But you can also put some clean water right under your rocks because this is what we're going to use for making some reflections of the rocks. So I have just put some water all down in here and we're going to pick up that brush that still had a little bit of paint on the top, and I'm going to follow in line from that top of that tree. We're going to start at the water's edge, and we're going to go down, and we're going to make a tip, and you're going to do it for this tree. Leave some space, and it's not going to go all the way down. And the same with this one. We're going to just go the opposite, almost like upside down pyramids, right? And if you can see, this is very much making a lot of spreading out of this, okay? It's just like spreading out. Now, if I wanted that to be more of a tip on there, I could make it like one, but I like how it's looking because it could be like the wind is blowing that a little bit. Now I'm going to do just a little bit over here. See on that water's edge? Just a little bit, but mirroring what I see up there. So not making details, we're just going around that water's edge with that kind of bluey green color. And then this tree right here is going to go, and again, this is all super wet, and we're not trying to make it perfect. It's not a mirror, it's just somewhat of a reflection. There is going to be some grasses over here, so you should probably think about if this is going to be more translucent. But I kind of like this. It's going to go around the whole rock there, okay? And you can start making your little peaks on those trees a little more defined if you want. Um, this is where you can just play with that, but definitely keep looking at what you got. I may put these more like that together. Make my shadows a little darker. Oh yes, Linda, I really do like it. It is awesome. I didn't think I would be like as impressed by it, but it is working great. This little water container, and I'm glad that you like the gift I made you. And I hope you're doing better today. How's your eyes doing? Are they did the swelling go down? All right, I'm liking how this looks. I may add just a little bit of water to make this not so yaggy. Like that. See, I love how that looks. Like if I look at it right in front of me, I don't like it. But if I look at it on my computer screen, I like it. Like it actually looks like reflections to me. So I'm liking it. Might put a little bit more right there. So yeah, this is really cool. We're gonna let all of this dry because we don't want it to be wet when we do some other stuff. Because we gotta paint our shoreline and under those trees a little bit. So looking at what I did yesterday, I went back in with some yellows and oranges because it's kind of like it's dry grass in a way. Oh, good, Linda. The swelling has gone down. Good, good, good. Because we do not want puppy eyes forever. Yeah, and hopefully you're using your ice pack. Gotta do that. All right. I need to do maybe a little bit under these rocks. And they're not green, but I'm going to use that same kind of blue color. So same as the sky a little bit and add a little paint spray. So that's going to be my rock reflections right under that rock. Again, following them rocks. Leave some white space. So don't make them too dark. And then it's the same under these guys over here. There's two over here. Remember, go less at first, and then you can always add more if you need more. But if you go too big, you'll have to remove some, right? But I like leaving a little bit of space. Do I have a close-up? Let me see if I can show you guys real quick. How I just did that. Reflection is a little darker than the tree reflections. And I did leave just a little bit of that white space. Oh, y'all, there's a pretty butterfly outside my window. It's going around the azaleas. But see how I skipped a couple little areas under those rocks just right in here, and you can see that that would be how it's breaking up. Now I see a ginormous bloom right here. I do not like it. If y'all are having that same issue, I'm going to try and remedy that real quick. So what I'm going to do is just pick up some of my paint, and I'm just going to go around that edge and blend back up into here, because I do not like it. Okay, I don't like that big weird bloom, but I think I put just way too much water on my brush. So there, I just kind of fixed it a little bit. So I like how that's looking. And this side is really going to be my The bank is going to have a shadow, so that's fine. Over here might not have a shadow, but over here is going to have more of a shadow, so it's good. We're good. And I'm liking the rocks now with the reflections. I'm liking the trees with the reflections. Everything's kind of coming together. Let's see. I'll show you guys. Just gonna move that a little bit so it's all in. You know, when you're trying to move a paper in one direction, it's different than how it looks on the screen. So I'm like always trying to figure that out still. Okay. So what I'm looking at is the whole picture, right? And I'm reassessing what I would need to do next, right? So I think what we're gonna work on is the bank. Now I can already tell in here is still kind of wet for my paper, probably not so much yours, but mine is. So I'm going to rinse my brush because we want some yellow now. Okay, so I have a couple yellows. I have a yellow ochre, I have cad yellow and lemon yellow, and then I have these yellow orange and some really darker oranges, cad orange, and things like that. I also have burnt sienna, which is on the reddish side, and some burnt umber, which is still, I think, on the orangey side. But I'm going to mix my yellow ochre if you have it. I don't have a place on here. I didn't really save a place. So what I could do is just take my paper towel, get it wet, and I can clean off a little area just so I have some place to mix the paint if I want. So there's my yellow. Sometimes my yellow is very green when I dip in there. This one's not too bad today. So this is a nice pretty yellow, but I do want to add just a little bit of that burnt sienna. Just a little bit. Oop, I may have put too much, so I go back, get some more yellow. So this color I'm really liking, if you can see it. I like that color. So now with my water and my yellowish color, I'm going to go along this edge. I may do a quick dry. Just real quick. So now we're going to go, and you can follow that edge as long as your water is kind of dry, not too. So this is funny because I'm using a small brush. Normally I would probably go a size bigger just to do less brush strokes. But look at that. I used all that paint that I mixed. It's all gone. So if you are mixing up your paint, remember that you probably need to mix more than you think. But now that I've got that in there, I'm going to go in with my burnt sienna and burnt umber mixed together maybe, and see what happens if I just start adding it here and there. What happens if I just do this? It might look good, it might not. But that is kind of a little bright. I may tone it down with some clean water and add some yellow back on top. So I'm just dipping back in there right on top and see how that's looking. Do I like that? Is it too yellow? Is it, because like if you look at this, it's not as yellow. I may have to tone this down. Of course, when I do these little videos, I'm always like, well, we'll just go really bright for people. People like bright. So I might mix up this burnt sienna with a little bit of Payne's Gray. That does tone it down. Payne's Gray will tone it down a little bit. So I'm just going to go back in over the top of what I've already painted with a darker brown and just see what happens if I do that, because I'm mixing on the paper, and if you have good quality paper, that'll work great. But now I'm going to extend my trees a little bit, and which means I have to mix up some more green. But that's that viridian green, a little bit of sap green. You should be getting to be a pro at mixing this color. Payne's gray, a little bit of alizarin crimson, or whatever red you were using. A little more Payne's gray, maybe a little more sap. And now I've got a fair amount in here, and we are going to come back down with my trees into here, right? We're going to just come down into this. And if I don't like how it's looking, the colors and stuff, I may stop and be like, let's see, what do we want to do instead? But I kind of like that. And I like coming down in here a little bit. Of course, I am losing a little bit of that mistiness that was in there. And I might be like, oof, what did I do? What did I do? But you know what? We don't learn unless we try it, right? I'm bringing that up a little bit. I feel like it's very green. Let me get some more Payne's gray because I want it to be dark down here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do my Payne's gray, super dark in here. And now I'm thinking about the shadows. What side of the trees is that shadow going to be on? So my rocks have shadows on the left-hand side a little bit. So I might be putting some on the left-hand side and just extending it up, but not all the way, just a little bit up. And you notice I'm going back and forth between some of the trees, going here and there, right? I'm just kind of exploring around. And I do like how it's bleeding into the yellow. I think that looks really pretty. This one needs just a little more dark on that. And I like going darker too. It helps give some contrast into your paintings. So sometimes I do a lot of crazy stuff just to show you that it can be done and like what it will do if you actually try it. If you try doing, I don't know, now I kind of want another tree back here. Let's see if I put another little tree. Kind of pale, but he's back there. And so I don't know if we could do some trees right here. I gotta take a little step back and see what I'm doing here. Might be, I don't know what I'm doing here. Might be doing something, might be overworking it. You might be watching in real time what it looks like to overwork. But I'm gonna add some direct to straight Payne's gray down now in here just to get these real pretty shadows going, right? We just want some pretty shadows on these trees. And this bank is really all the same color right now. I'm going to mix. Maybe I'm going to mix, maybe. We'll see. Maybe some of this orange color, mix some of this orange yellow in with this blue green. Although I want it more orange, but less bright. So it's got to look kind of muddy, but we're going to make a little bit of a shadow just coming down. Maybe, I don't know. Where do we want to put the shadows? Do we want to put them right here? I don't think my other one had these shadows, but kind of like it. And that's the cool thing about this too, is you can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow what I'm doing, but you may want to. I'm just wiggling my brush around, seeing if I like how that looks, which I do. I kind of like it. Now I might put this little bit of a shadow right here on the bank, just to add some interest. Right? We want to have an interesting painting. Oh, that looks cool. I kind of like that. Oh, thank you, Linda. Saying it looks beautiful. Thank you. I feel like it's at a point where I might need to stop, but I do want to do my grasses in the foreground that I did in this other one, and I really liked how they turned out here. And we can't forget the ripples. We need to do our ripples still. So we're just gonna let that dry. It's almost like there's some shadow. I like it. I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna drain my water so I can get clean water now. I haven't even used half of the water because I'm used to using very dirty water. Okay, so now I'm gonna mix my same yellow in the same area. And you want it kind of thick because it's got to go over your water right there. So I've got this nice color with a little bit of burnt sienna in it. And you can go in a smaller brush. I am pretty good at controlling this one, so I'm going to go, I think, with this one. So behind the rocks, there's some grasses just kind of, and I just start at the base of the blade and flick up. And sometimes they cross each other, going in different directions. So this is where you can have fun too. That's still really wet. So if you're gonna do your grass over the front of this, you may need to dry your groundwork. But let me just show you up close what I'm doing. So I'm picking up some paint and I'm gonna do a little bit more here. See that? If you have a rigger, it's probably better than if you're doing what I'm doing. But I'm gonna make sure all the bottom of this is filled in so that you don't really see the water behind this rock. I'm liking that shape. So see how I just did that? And it's still wet. I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to pull up some burnt sienna and just dig my brush in there. Dig, dig, dig. Get nice and juicy with all that paint. And I'm just going to make some little flicks here and there with the darker brown. So see, I'm just doing a little bit darker ones in there. And those are very bright compared to what's happening over there, so it's good. We like it. We're gonna hit it with the heat gun just a little bit. Let's see what happens when we dry it just a little bit, and we're gonna use that same burnt sienna, burnt umber, whatever. Add a little, that's way too much Payne's Gray. Look at all that. Add a little more burnt umber in there. So it's a darker brown. We can go in if it's dry enough. I don't think I dried it quite enough. But you can add some darker spots in here, and those will add your shading and give some shadow in there. And I do want to make it a little bit taller. Let me try and make it a little taller. All right, we're going to try just this yellow ochre and just straight in the yellow ochre and see what happens if I add it directly. I might go smaller. Let me go into a smaller brush because sometimes the control is better if you go smaller. That's why you need some of these small ones. All right, I'm gonna flick some up here with that smaller brush and some up here. So I really want more grasses on this side. And some of them should be a little bit bright. So we're just gonna do a couple more here and maybe a little taller. Because what about those little red flowers that are kind of growing here? Now I can use just a little bit of this darker. And now for the final amazingness with those little red flowers. Actually, it's not the final. Let's let that dry for a second. We're going to do that bluish color again and mix it up. Let me go back out, zoom out so you can see. So we're going to zoom back out and I'm going to mix up this blue color right here. And you might want to put a little Payne's gray in it. Not a ton, but just a little bit. All right, just to tone it down. And now we're going to make some ripples in the water. So using this small one or a rigger. If you don't have a tiny brush, use a rigger brush. If you don't have that, you're going to have a real steady hand. I am not going to go overboard with the ripples, okay? These little ripples down by the shore, that shoreline, are small. And then as it gets closer to me, I'm going to make them a little bigger. I just dipped in the water. And I'm just doing a couple of little ripples. And where did I put my blue? So I'm putting them here and there. And I'm liking that. So you don't want to overdo them, but you want to put it enough so that it looks like water. Your favorite part, Janice, is the swishes. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. You would probably be doing great at these swishes. All right, I'm gonna rinse that out and get some new fresh water. If I don't like how some of this is looking, if it's too stark, I can always take my just clean water and go over the top and just soften some of these if I don't like how defined they are. I want maybe a little softer look to them and see what that does. So I just softened up a couple of those. And I want to do the red flowers in there, and I think then we'll be done. Let's see. Do I want them to be these bright orange? Or do I want scarlet red? What do you guys have? I might use the scarlet red. And I'm just going to dip it right in there. Get a lot on my brush. Can you see how much is on my brush? Like the whole tip is basically red. We are going to make just little dots. I don't even know what kind of flower this is, but we're just going to try it and see what happens. And as you can see, it's still kind of wet down in there, but I kind of like how bright these are. And I like to do 3. So I think I just did 3 on there. Maybe. Let's see if we can zoom it in. Probably. I'll zoom in for y'all to see what I just did. So I did add like 3 of those kind of flowers. Their bases are kind of blending and bleeding in with this. which makes it look more organic and not planned, just like it's doing its own thing. Yeah, I like that. I like how that looks. And I see a lot of bleeding right here. That looks kind of nice. Those blooms are the kind I like. I don't like it when they look like you dropped water on your paper accidentally. But I do like that. I like how that's looking. And I think I'm not going to do any more of them. I'm going to leave the rest just like that. So I'm going to rinse my brush and see if we can zoom back out and see if we can get the whole screen, the whole table. Let's see if we can get the whole thing. Yes. And see, it is curling up here. I don't know if you can tell. My paper does curl. A lot of times to fix those curls, like after you're done painting, you can flip this over and put water on the back and then dry the back with a heat tool. Or you can just put them under some books. And that will get rid of that little curve in the paper. But I'm liking how that looks, at least on my screen. It looks great. So definitely gonna rinse my brushes and dry them. You always want to rinse and dry. Let's see what's on this one. A little bit of yellow. And dry. So you don't ever, what's great about this thing too that I'm liking is your brushes can't sit in your water, right? I'm just gonna clean that out. And so now my brushes aren't going to sit in that. Some people like to keep all their brushes in a container, you know, like this, with them all hanging up in there. With their brushes, tips are on the bottom and they're bending. So it's really not good for your brushes to do that. If you have gotten into the habit of doing that, maybe try not to, but Oh, Jenna says, I'm still waiting to paint my swooshes. Oh, what's going on? Are they wet? I know you probably don't have a heat tool at your location. I don't know. I'm looking at this going, I really like it. And of course, we should sign our paintings, but I'm liking how that looks. That looks really pretty. I like the softness of the mountains and the greenery and that bank for the water. I'm liking it. So I may frame this one. But someone else was saying, don't paint to frame, paint to learn. And I agree. We should all be painting to learn. Oh my gosh, is it 11:20? Why is it so late? Jerry said it came out beautifully. Thank you so much, Jerry. I appreciate you saying that. So thank you. I have gone over my time. You guys are probably still painting, but that's fine if you are. There's no rush. I'm not rushing y'all. Actually, I took a little bit longer with this, and I think the reason why I took longer is because it's larger. It's a 9x12, and if you go, the bigger you go with your paper, the longer it takes to actually finish a painting. That's why I enjoy painting ACEOs. If you don't have any idea what an ACEO is, it's this size. So it's very small, 2.5 by 3.5. And what you do is you just paint little, I have some already painted over here. I was gonna try and paint this for, actually it looks good on the screen. This is like a little Gulf Shores picture with an umbrella. This one, I was doing my paint every day challenge of July, but I didn't even finish my challenge. Nobody else did either. That's fine. But I did learn a lot just by doing some. Just by doing some, right? Here's one I did of the little earth. And here's one I did of a bald eagle. So you definitely can when you paint small, you can get those done in like probably 10 minutes. That's usually how long it takes me. Unless I get over, working it. I think I like this one. I don't know if I've ever said this one out loud with y'all. It looks long though. But it's Romans 5:5. And it says, you are able to hold your head high. And it's personalized for me. It says Jacqueline. But you guys can put your name in place of mine. It says, no matter what happens, and know that all is well. For you know how dearly I love you, and you can feel this warm love everywhere within you because I have given you the Holy Spirit to fill your heart with my love. Romans 5:5, y'all. That is beautiful. That's a beautiful scripture right there. And I feel like sometimes we forget how much God loves us because we're going through trials and we think, oh my goodness, there's just no way he's even paying attention right now with everything happening. And I feel that sometimes, but then I have to remember that the Bible is true and his promises are true where he says he loves us and that we are his children. And if you have children, you would know you would do anything for them, but sometimes you have to let them go through some trials, right? Doesn't that help them grow up, and it helps them become mature adults, and it helps them to stand up for themselves if that's the case that they need to start doing, or perhaps it's to soften them and make them not so hard on others because of the things happening. So we have to remember there's a plan for our kids just like there is a plan for us. And God has chosen us to be his children. And I love that reminder of Romans 5:5, that he's given us the Holy Spirit and he loves us. So I have started leaning back on him again and trusting in him and not stressing out over things. Easier said than done, I know. But if y'all need me to pray for you, just send me a message and I will reach out to you. Because I would love to pray for you. I do pray for y'all. I say a quick prayer just for my viewers and my friends. And I hope that you guys know how much I love you and appreciate you watching. Of course, if you are just joining me for the first time and you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't. And also leave a comment. I love reading all your comments. I read every single one. I reply to every single one. If you have any questions, someone sent me a message about what paints I use, so just definitely send me a message if you have any questions that I didn't answer during this live. But I will see you all again next Monday, and I hope you have a blessed week.